What's going on, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we are going to be doing our Week 4 preview for the APAC region. We're going to do it separate like we've been talking about just because there's a lot of games. We start on Thursday, and we have 3 teams playing 4 matches, and the rest of the teams in APAC are playing 3 matches. So we got a lot to talk about. We got to break things down. We got to get ready for the kickoff clash with this. Obviously, it's going to be hard to go over these scenarios right now because most teams have either played 2 or 3 games and they're not caught up to NA yet. We'll have a better understanding of what's going to happen with APAC come later in the weekend. And we'll discuss that on Monday, what happens and what we have going on for the tournament. And it's not as cut and dry as it is in NA, but you know, that's what makes APAC so great to watch and to absorb. Who knows what's going to happen there? You wake up in the morning, if you're on the East Coast, and you're like, huh? Every week, at least one, what is going on kind of moment. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. First, though, I want to thank everybody for joining me. Thank you very much for all your support. If you guys have been here for 1 day or for 5 years since I started this, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. And if you're just coming in for the first time, stopping by, checking me out, I do Overwatch League content usually 3 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what's going on. Obviously, we have a lot going on this week, so we're going to have an extra episode in here for the APAC region, and we're going to break all the stuff down and all that and talk about it. But thank you very much for stopping by. Really quick, got a little bit of news from Boston, more news. So they officially released Striker. I don't know what happened there. It seemed too good to be true when they said that they were signing him. You know, you thought all the things were back to normal, hatchets buried, whatever, with him and Hawk, but apparently not. Now, I love Striker. I love the way he plays. He seems difficult. I don't know the guy. I don't know what goes on with him, but he seems like he wants to win, and that's his main focus. And, you know, Dallas is building. They're not the greatest team, obviously. We've seen the results, but he could have been just a problem there, and he just might have needed to go. Who knows if he's going to play somewhere else. If someone needs a tracer or something like that, you might see him get picked up somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he still wants to play. Yeah, someone will pick him up. Someone will take him on. Why wouldn't you? I don't know. Boston kind of looked better, but I don't know if it was Boston being better or the Justice being, you know, the Justice. Anyway. So that's that scenario. Let's dive into APAC. We got the Boston news out of the way. Let's talk about what we have going on after a chaotic first week of just who knows what was going on in some of those matches. They were just insane. Some of them were great. Some of them were what you were shaking your head watching the whole damn thing. Let's talk about what we got going on. So the meta kind of in APAC, and I think it's going to flesh itself out a little bit more in that I think they're going to kind of lean a little bit. Some teams should lean on the Winston comps a little bit more. You have some teams playing a lot of Zarya, and not necessarily just that Zarya Reaper thing. They're doing Zarya Echo, Zarya Soldier, and Tracer. They're doing a lot of different iterations on that comp, which is great, and I like seeing diversity. Don't get me wrong. Winston comps, especially for a team, like if you take Seoul, for instance, yeah, if you look at the stats, Smurf looked like he did a decent enough job and this and that, but they looked more crisp. They looked better. They looked like the team that we thought they were when he was playing Winston and he had Prophet on Tracer and they were just going and fucking people. That's what you want to see. You got to lean on that. Yeah, you know, you might think Zarya is better, at least for a team like Seoul. But then there's other teams that it works in the opposite direction where playing the Zarya, like Hangzhou, for instance, Sawson, or not Hangzhou, I'm sorry, the Valiant. Sawson played a good Zarya. He was doing some good things. And you know, Hangzhou was playing good Zarya with Bernard. And he played some Diva, and it didn't look awful. Was it the greatest? No. But we got some meta diversity, especially tank-wise. There's like 3 camps, and the one camp that APAC is definitely not in is the Doomfist camp. But you have a lot of variation. They're leaning a little bit more on the Brig, which I'm okay with. It's a good anti-dive thing. And coupled with the Ashe, we talked about this in the review from last week with the Shock, but it kind of started over here with some of these APAC teams where you have the Ashe and you have Brig. Now, a lot of people don't think Brig brings value, but if you're going up against a team running Zarya, even a team running Winston, which, it works really well against, especially if you're playing a peel style Brigitte, you're running a Brig Anna, right? You use the whip shot to get the Winston out. You have the Inspire. You keep the Anna alive, who can keep the other people alive. There's a lot of stuff going on. And, if you're doing maybe a soldier with that, you can kind of stick by the soldier. There's a lot of things. And you have repair packs for your Tracer. Like, if you guys watched some of the Shock match, you saw Proper just coming back into LOS of the Brig. Bang. Repair pack. Bang. Maybe sometimes two. You get the overheal and all that stuff going, and it works. And I kind of like it. But I think the meta is, it's not as defined as like something like Goats or Double Shield or some of the other stuff we've seen where you have to run this or you're going to lose. There's a lot of diversity in these metas where there's a lot of counterplay. If you run X better than Y, you should run X is the way it works now. And it's effective. If you look at some of the comps that teams have been running, like even in NA, you have London running some Rhine comps. It's working for them in certain situations. It did not work against Doom, which, that's everybody knows that. But they give it a shot, at least. A lot of these teams, there's going to be a lot of weird things that are going to happen, I think, this week. We may see some upsets just because of fatigue and things like that by Sunday, even Saturday with a couple of these teams. And it's not going to diminish how good I think they are. I just think that some of these teams are going to be playing a lot of matches. You have Chengdu, Shanghai, and the Fusion playing 4 matches. And you can't tell me that there's going to be a slip-up somewhere from one of these teams. I mean, I went straight across the board and just kind of picked the favorites because it makes more sense, But something's going to happen somewhere along the lines, especially since it's APAC, and we saw what happened last weekend, and there was just weird stuff going on. Let's talk about teams we're going to watch this week. Obviously, Philly. I mean, there's a lot to unpack with all these teams, but Philly looked phenomenal. They were on that shock level with the rookies. They were playing dominant. They were playing just insanely good. Zest, MN3 looked fantastic. Even the supports where I was kind of concerned, they look good. Belisara, I'm sorry, I have trouble with his name, even though I've heard it. It just doesn't come out of my mouth right. But he looked really good as well. And you have Fury playing decently because, well, not in Washington, therefore playing better. Anyway, I just think they looked really dominant. And it's a scary situation for teams in the APAC region with only 7 teams where you have a team playing like this. Philadelphia looks good. Now, last year, guys, if you remember, I was on the Philly train. First stage, I was like, these guys came in, they made up ground. Second stage, they had the Valiant. I think they had the Valiant, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, and Chengdu, and they went 0-4 or 0-3 and beat the Valiant and lost a map to the Valiant. One of the 2 maps the Valiant won. Anyway, they had a bad second stage. Maybe it wasn't the Valiant in there. I don't know. It was somebody in there that was playing like horse shit. Maybe it was Seoul. I don't know. Soul might have been the only test I thought they had. Well, anyway, that was last year. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, you going to do what you did last year? I'm kind of doing that a little bit. But, I'm looking at this going, Zest, MM3, Aim God. Some of these guys, like Aim God has been in the league, but Belisara, you got guys that are young, hungry, playing really, really well together, which is also phenomenal. And you have good veterans on there, like Fury, like Carpe. You have these guys on this team that are making this look easy right now. First 2 games, I know, got to pump the brakes a little bit, but I'm liking the way they play. I really am. But this weekend, there's a chance they slip up. There's a chance that any of these teams playing 4 games or 3 games slip up because that's a lot. It's really a lot. I mean, Shanghai's got 4 games. They lost 1, could have lost 2, should have lost 2 to the second one to the Spark. There were points in that match, and we talked about it. I thought the Spark could have won. It could have taken it from them. Now, Shanghai's got the Dynasty. They have Chengdu, the Valiant, and they have the Charge. So the first 2 days are kind of easy-ish. They got Charge Valiant back-to-back. And then they go into Chengdu and the Dynasty. Chengdu is in the Chengdu zone again, where they get absolutely smoked or beat somebody. That's just what's going to happen again. It's going to be what it is with Chengdu. And they're also a team with 4, and they got Hangzhou, Philly, Shanghai, and the Valiant, which is a daunting 4 matches for anybody in a weekend. What do you prepare for? You have 3 of the best 4 teams in your conference coming at you first 3 days, and then you get kind of a break with the Valiant. Fusion, they got the same kind of, they have a little bit less of a hard road. You could say it's kind of one hard match, one match they should win. They play Seoul first, and then they play the Valiant, and then they play the Chengdu Hunters, and then they play the Valiant, and then they play the Spark. It's up in the air how they'll do this weekend, but they very well could lose one of those 4 matches. Maybe to Seoul, maybe to Hangzhou. I wouldn't leave the possibility out of them getting snuck up upon by maybe Chengdu. Valiant, I don't think so. Fusion's got way too much on them. I think Chengdu could have one of those Chengdu matches against them. I'm not picking it, but if there was a match of the 4 that Philadelphia has this weekend that I would be afraid of, if I'm a Philly fan, it would be the Hunters. Because you're sandwiched between Seoul, end of the weekend, you have Spark. You're going to prepare for the Valiant, but let's be honest. Like I said, they got way more on the Valiant so maybe you leave the Valiant out. Maybe you prepare a little bit for Chengdu. You look to a couple of things that they're doing, watch them a little bit, and kind of come up with a little bit of something for them. But I think Chengdu would be the sneaky match if Fusion lose 1. That being said, Seoul probably goes out and 3-0s them. Because that's what Seoul does. Seoul will do that, and they will lose to Guangzhou the next day. And then finish the weekend by beating the Dragons. That's the Seoul Dynasty. And speaking of Seoul, just really quick on Seoul, they really got to keep Marvel on Winston. And I kind of touched on it a little bit. Or Marvel. Oh my God. Wayback Machine. Smurf. Keep Smurf on Winston. They look so much better when they do the Winston comps. Yeah, I know Zarya is good, but if you're dominating people with Winston, with Smurf Prophet, and then you have Fitz in there, you gotta kind of go with that. I mean, logic would tell you, if you're wrecking people with one comp, just because something dictates, all right, maybe certain maps, absolutely, Winston might be trash on. Like, Circuit Royale, I wouldn't really run him on there. You gotta figure out a Sigma. Maybe you figure out someone that you can bring in for that. I don't know. Maybe you bring back Meko? What's Miro doing besides coaching? Get him in there. I don't know if he knows how to play Sig, but... Alright, that's kind of my, general musings of APAC. So, let's go over the schedule. There's a lot, guys. A lot. So let's go over it really quick. Thursday, May 26th, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Philadelphia Fusion, followed by the Hangzhou Spark taking on the Chengdu Hunters. Last match of Thursday, we have Guangzhou taking on Shanghai. On to Friday, we have the Fusion taking on the Hunters to start the day off at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next up, we have Seoul taking on Guangzhou. Last match of Friday, we have the Valiant taking on the Dragons. Saturday, we got the Guangzhou Charge taking on the Hangzhou Spark, followed by the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Shanghai Dragons. Last match of Saturday, we have the Philadelphia Fusion taking on Los Angeles Valiant. On to the last match of the tournament qualifiers for APAC. We have big match on Sunday. We have Shanghai taking on the Seoul Dynasty, followed by the LA Valiant taking on the Chengdu Hunters, and then finishing the weekend off with the Hangzhou Spark taking on the Philadelphia Fusion. Okay, so that's what we got right here going on. Now, 2 matches we're going to talk about today are, first match of the weekend, we're going to talk Philly-Seoul, and we're going to double up on Philly this weekend, and we're going to talk the last match of the weekend with Philly and the Hangzhou Spark. I think Philly is right now the most intriguing. We could have talked Seoul, Shanghai. That's going to be a big match on Sunday as well. You could make an argument for maybe Chengdu, Shanghai, or even if you wanted to go this way, you could go Spark Hunters. But these are the big four teams right now, and I want to see how they play things out. It's kind of like a precursor maybe to the playoffs, depending on what happens. And we talked Shanghai a couple times already, but I'm ready to talk about Philly a couple of times this week because it's going to happen because the good teams, I'm not talking about bad teams, unless it's a severe toilet bowl issue where we want to talk about it. But there's nothing like that going on. All right, so let's talk Seoul, Philly. Seoul coming off a weird weekend where they lose to the Spark, go 5 maps with the Valiant, and then absolutely demolish Chengdu, which was a surprise to me. I thought maybe it would have been the other way around where Chengdu took them 5, Valiant, they 3-0 or 3-1 or something like that. But they got a lot going on that's positive, but they have some weird stuff going on too. I just don't like some of the things. Let's get this out of the way first. And you guys know I'm a Prophet simp. They rely too much on the potential for what Prophet can do, and Fitz for that matter. It's the Michael Jordan effect that the Bulls had in the 80s. Early, like before they won their championships and all that, and the whole Last Dance kind of stuff. The front half of that. This is what the Seoul Dynasty are right now. They're waiting for Prophet to do something. Or Fitz. On certain occasions, it's Prophet needs to go off. When they play complete, like they have their dives coordinated, and they're playing those Winston comps with Smurf. Because you guys know how good Smurf is on Winston. He's insane. He's good on the main tanks. He's getting better. Stat-wise, he's decent on Zarya. Eye test-wise, he needs some work. Meaning, he can do damage. He can do some of the things, high-energy kills and all that stuff. But the bubble management, the micro of Zarya, not the macro of me get energy, me fuck people up. The micro stuff, getting the bubbles on the right people, timing your bubbles, timing your grabs, things like that. He has not gotten there yet with that, and maybe they move away from Sombra. I think Sombra could be useful. I don't know what's going to happen with what goes on until they change to the next patch where we see the dial down a little bit. Soldier stuff, you might see more Sombra, who knows. But Soldier's kind of a must pick. A lot of it is the play of, for me, with Soul, is getting Smurf where he's comfortable and he can wreck. And him and Prophet have a really good relationship as far as synergy and things like that. You got to play on that. Now, they've had a lot less time, live game-wise, than... And I'm not just saying Seoul, the APAC team. So you're going to learn some more stuff as you go along. It's just they got to learn it day by day, not week by week. Now, their support line, I think that we've learned that Vindime is pretty fucking sick. Him and Creative are decent. Creative's decent enough. I haven't had any mauled moments watching Creative. So if you just let Vindime do his thing, you're going to be fine. Maybe you'll lean a little bit more on Brig. Potentially, but his Lucio looked good. His Brigitte looked good. And I'm not upset about anything this dude plays. He looks really good at what he does. Creative looks good enough. But if you get... their keys for them are getting Smurf on Winston. And if you need those Prophet or Fitz pop-off moments, you got to have Winston in there. And because Prophet and him are got a good thing going, you got to stick with that. Because you got two literally legends in Overwatch League that have a synergy going on. Just run with it, man. Don't worry about what XCOM... Maybe on certain maps you got to do that. Like I said before, Circuit Royale, you might want to bring out the SIG. Going up against Philly for Seoul, I talked a lot about Seoul. The Fusion, every part of their rotations are phenomenal. You have... Belisara and Fury playing phenomenally on the tank role, map to map doing what they do. I think your main DPS rotation with Philly is going to be MN3 and Zest. I don't see why you would go out there. I mean, I know it's Carpe, but goddamn, these guys are good. And Fixa and AimGod are good enough. They're doing their job. They're doing what they have to do. They're not doing, maybe Vindime or some of the other guys in NA, like some of the, like Funny Astro. Maybe you could even throw Lastro in there. Some of these guys that are just going and wrecking people on Lucio. Or, maybe the occasions where they run Brig or something like that. You got to stick with what you're good at. And they're doing a good job on the support line with that. I just love watching MN3 and Zest just wreck. They're just phenomenal. This is potentially, and you could throw Carpe in here too. This is potentially, right now, I would even say miles ahead of Lip and Fleta, and you could throw Who Are You in there. In the East, they're probably the best. Sure, you can make an argument for Alpha Yi and Shy, but MN3 and Zest are just more consistent. There's a lot of points where Shy was doing stupid things and Alpha Yi, got caught out, whatever. But MN3 and Zest are phenomenal, and they're going to cause big, big, big problems for the Dynasty if they don't keep running that Winston comp and staying one step ahead of the Fusion. They could do a lot of things against the Fusion, but right now, let's do tail of the tape on this. We have tanks. You got Fury and Belcera versus Smurf. I think Fury adds the edge to Philadelphia on this because he can play the Zarya comps, he can play Diva if you need him to, he can play Sigma on maps like Circuit Royale or any kind of map where you need something like that. I just think Smurf is not he's not a one trick by any stretch of the imaginations. I just don't think it's Zarya and some of his off-tank heroes are quite up to par with what Philadelphia can do, because they'll run Belcera on maps where you definitely want to run Winston, and they're going to run Fury on maps where you potentially want to run a Zarya or you want to run Sigma, things that he's comfortable with. This is one of the problems that we were talking about before the year started with teams that are running one tank, and you're seeing that right now. But I had more faith in Smurf, honestly, than some of the other teams doing that. He doesn't look terrible. Like I said, stat-wise, he looks good. But tail of the tape kind of scenario, I got to go Fury and the rookie Belcera. Supports. You have AimGod and Fixa, Vindime Creative. I call this even. I think AimGod and Creative are kind of on the same level, and maybe a slight edge right now, today, at this moment, May 24th, 2022. I'd go with AimGod ahead of Creative. And it's not me hating on Creative. I just think AimGod is playing a little bit better with his team right now than Creative is with his. You're seeing him a little bit more in things like the kill feed and stuff like that. And not Creative, he just has a little bit more AimGod today. I'm going to go the other way. Vindime is a little bit better than Fixa. I just like the way Vindime's playing. He's got like insane stats on Lucio. He can play a really good Brig. A little bit more than what Fixa can handle. How's this? I didn't really notice Fixa, which is pretty much what your main support kind of viewing experience is. So he's good, but he's not on that, oh my god, he's doing this. Which leaves us with MN3 and Zest with Carpe versus Prophet and Fitz. This is a tough one. I know I'm the Prophet simp, but like I said with AimGod, right now, consistency and just doing the things the team needs in every comp, I have to go with MN3 and Zest. Not by much, because Prophet still does Prophet things. Fitz still is at the top of his game. But as far as potential to carry and deadlift and to do all of the things that go above and beyond, right now, I'm going Zest MN3. It's very hard for me to say, and I'm looking for Prophet to go off. Hopefully he's channeling his I'll show you kind of thing. Anyway, I'm just doing it to inspire Prophet to do better. That's my whole goal. Anyway, how do I see the match playing out? I'm looking at Philly 3-1 in a closer 3-1 than probably some people are expecting. I think that there's just a lot that Seoul has that they can do things, and you get these scenarios where Fitz or Profit go off. You got chances for Seoul to win. But on the whole, I really like Philly. I think they have a lot of confidence as well. I think they're playing decently. They're playing better than I expected. And I like them 3-1 to beat the Seoul Dynasty. Let's move on to the next match. We talked a lot about Philly. We're going to talk about the Philly Fusion and the Hangzhou Spark. Hangzhou, Guxue, and Bernard. They're playing really well, in my opinion. More Bernard exceeding expectations. Guxue doing what kind of you expect him to. He's a little bit, it's hard to say, he played really well, but there were times when he did not. So, on Winston. And this is the opposite take I have from Seoul. I want to see Bernard playing the Zarya with this team more. They seem to be more comfortable with that comp. He knows what he's doing. He can do really well with it, etc. With the Zarya stuff, back to how we were talking about it was going for Smurf, but in the opposite direction. I think that Bernard is playing really, really good. What they really need is a big match from Guxue if they're running Winston comps at all. Right now, more than ever with Overwatch 2, you're the catalyst if you're playing Winston. You're the leader of the dive and whatever. You have to be on your game, and he just seemed a little bit off. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of super divey Winston stuff. I mean, Winston's always considered a dive hero, but this is more of the 2018 kind of, which I think is why, Prophet and Smurf look good doing that. I want to see more of that out of the Spark. That being said, Spark, you have Alpha Yi and Shy playing phenomenally. Alpha Yi especially, he kind of hard carried them against Shanghai. They should have won that match, but they did not. I will continue to say that, not because I'm on the Spark bandwagon, but, watch Lijiang Tower and tell me they should not have won that map. I think their supports are also looking pretty good. I thought Irony and Super Rich looked pretty decent enough that they were doing their job. They were, much like we were talking about creative, they're kind of on that level where they're not screwing the pooch, so to speak, but they're doing enough to keep their team alive and to keep them winning. And then sometimes that's all you really want from your support players. They're doing things not terribly. They're doing things by the book. They're getting the job done. Irony, same thing. Getting the job done, doing well, not exactly going all out ham or anything like that on Ana, but they look decent enough. Philly, we talked about them. We talked about all their DPS, their supports, and all that kind of stuff. Dove deep into them and what they do. They match up, unfortunately for the Spark, the Fusion side, they match up a lot better. So let's tailor the tape this. Tanks, I give a edge to the Fusion, a little bit of an edge. I like Fury and Belcera a little bit better than I like either Bernard or Guxue when they're in there. Because Belcera, when they run that, they've been running the Winston comps and running him on maps. They look fantastic. You have Fury, who's a legend, who can play Sigma, Diva, Zarya at a very, not even, we can't call it just a high level. He is almost in that S tier kind of guy with some of the heroes that he has to play. So I lean on the Fusion in the tank role. Supports, I'm calling supports even. I think Irony and Super Rich are playing about the same, as you would say, maybe as Aim God and Fixa. I think it's kind of a wash on both sides. Maybe a slight lean on the side of the docket for the Spark, but I'm going to call it even because it's pretty much too close to call for me on that. Finally, we have DPS. We have Alpha Yi Shy versus MN3 Zest and Carpe. I had to lean on MN3, Carpe, and Zest. They just looked better. Not that Alpha Yi and Shy looked bad, but I guess if you really want to get down to it, it's pretty close. But you know what? The weekend's results, I kind of got to go with Zest MN3. So that's the tail of the tape for this match. I have this match closer than it may sound. I have Fusion winning 3-2, mostly because of fatigue and the amount of games that they've had to play. I think something might slip. They might not be 100%. You might have substitutions in for things. You might see more Carpe in this. I don't know. Depends probably on where they're at standing-wise as far as Countdown Cup standings, but I think Philly will be fine by this point. We're going to have a lot of stuff defined, and it might mean a lot more, the game, that is. The game might mean a lot more to the Spark than it does to the Fusion, is what I'm getting at. I like Fusion 3-2 on this, so that's going to be my matches for the week that we talked about. Now we're going to wrap this episode up with my picks for all 9 million of these games. So here we go, guys. We got 3 matches, 12 total. We're going to do this in, order of appearance, so to speak. So let's have at it. All right, here we go. First match of the day on Thursday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talked about this one. I like Philly in a close 3-1 against Seoul. Next match of Thursday, we have the Hangzhou Spark taking on the Chengdu Hunters. I like Hangzhou 3-2. Final match of Thursday, the Dragons taking on the Charge. I like the Dragons 3-0. Moving on to Friday, we have, to start the day, we have the Fusion and Chengdu Hunters. I like Fusion 3-1. Next match, we have the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I like Seoul 3-1. Final match of Friday. I'm calling this one a little closer than I should have. I'm going out on a limb because I need points for my pick'ems. So I'm taking the Dragons against the Valiant. I'm taking the Dragons 3-2 because the Dragons are looking shaky. The Valiant are looking better. Still an L, unfortunately, for the Dragons. I'm sorry, the Valiant. Moving on to Saturday. First match, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have Guangzhou Charge taking on the Hangzhou Spark. I like Hangzhou 3-1. Next match, we have Chengdu taking on Shanghai. I like Shanghai 3-2. Final match of Saturday, I like the Fusion 3-0 over the Valiant. Moving on to the last day in APAC and the last matches for Kickoff Clash qualifiers. I like the Dragons 3-1 over the Dynasty. Next match, I like the Chengdu Hunters 3-2 over the Valiant. And to wrap the weekend up, I have the Spark losing to the Fusion 3-2, as we spoke about. A lot of 3-2 matches in this. It's not going to happen, but I got to try. I got to make up points, etc., and what have you. But yeah, that's my take on the weekend. And that is the episode, guys. So thank you very much for joining me. Everyone who's been with me for 1 day or for 5 years, thank you very much. All of your support's greatly, greatly appreciated. If you're new and you made it all the way to the end of the video, thanks a lot. Please hit a like, hit a subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. That would be fantastic. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you on the next one.